are a director of an early learning center and you have an educator who comes in to work wearing something completely inappropriate for the work that they're doing. Some leaders may say, well, now we have to have a policy that has this kind of dress code and you can't wear this and that, whatever. And we're gonna email this policy out to everyone else on the team so we all know what the policy is. It's called bureaucracy. No one wants to work in an organization layered with bureaucracy. Come on, let's be real, right? You just need to have a difficult conversation with that one person. Don't punish the innocent. Usually, a rule is something that has been written, and it can usually be unwritten. A constraint is something that's more like an immutable law of the universe. We only have 24 hours in a day. We only have 7 days in a week. The budget maybe is the budget and we have no control over that. Okay, another thing that's really characteristic about a rule is that it's focused on process, which just sort of means it's like this do it this way kind of thing where you may not have a choice. There's maybe not a lot of creative flexibility or autonomy in this decision that you have. Versus a constraint, which is usually more outcome focused, which feels a lot more like just get this result. The human skills that we develop are gonna be the most valuable in the world of AI. And so what is one thing that's really essential and important and characteristic of a human? It's the way we feel, because it impacts our decision making. The way that a rule feels, well, I guess we just have to do it this way. I'm just doing what I was told to do. It's the compliance mindset thing. Versus a constraint, which will usually feel like autonomy. And when we have some autonomy over things, we're much more likely to be motivated. This is a compass for you to sort of gut check, litmus test what you think may be a rule and what you think might be a constraint, where we have a little bit more positive, generative thinking that can be possible. If you're thinking in a rule-based mindset, it will usually stunt creative problem solving. It does this by externalizing blame, which really creates this sort of compliance mindset of, well, I guess there's nothing I can do. I have to follow these rules and there's nothing I can do about it. Now let's compare this to the way that constraint-based thinking helps us generate creative problem solving. It generates this mindset of, hey, look, these constraints are existing and there's nothing we can do about those. But what can we do to make sure that we get the outcome that we want? This allows internal ownership and triggers outside the box thinking. Creativity is often a really important thing for teams to be able to solve interesting or really impossible problems. And let's be honest, creativity is actually a hugely undervalued and underappreciated asset to solve really difficult problems. Okay, I want to give you like a couple other examples of when this kind of shift has allowed organizations to do some pretty remarkable things. Back in the day, Nike decided to contract Michael Jordan to help them launch a new sneaker product called the Air Jordan. They were just designing this kind of like early prototype. The NBA said, we have some very strict rules so that it doesn't distract viewers when they're watching the game. Well, Nike's new sneaker did not follow these rules. And when they signed Michael Jordan's contract, it said that he was gonna wear these sneakers at every game in the season. And they were gonna incur an NBA penalty of $8,000, right? Like Nike looked at that and said, I think it's worth it. If we break the rules, we actually will get more return on our investment than if we had run maybe another campaign. The NBA said this shoe is banned. Nike said, hey, Nike is putting out this shoe with Michael Jordan. And the NBA has already banned this shoe. But that doesn't mean that you can't have it at home. Now, when they did this, they sold a lot of sneakers and they ended up not having to run this campaign and put Michael Jordan out. They ended up changing his contract. But the point is, Nike took the correct mindset in a competitive market and said, we are going to say that that $8,000 penalty is marketing costs because it's gonna give us way more than we would have gotten had we taken another approach. Okay, I have one more example for you. There's a bar somewhere in Europe, and the bar was like beloved by its patrons. People went there all the time. They had a community, they had relationships with each other. The problem was the township had a constraint for the bar that says no one is allowed to be loud past this time. And the bar had a really big, hard time sorting this out because people would leave the bar, you know, feeling pretty good and pretty loud. So the bar would go to its patrons and say, guys, hey, listen, we want to keep the bar here. Have fun in here. We can do whatever we want. But then once you go outside, you gotta be quiet. And how many people actually kept their mouths shut? Basically no one. And for weeks, everything they tried, they couldn't make it work until a week before the bar was gonna be closed. And one employee said, why don't we give out lollipops as people walk out the door? And funny enough, people took a lollipop, put it in their mouth, walked out the door, and the noise disappeared. And the bar was saved because one employee had a creative idea that helped solve the problem. One of the kind of core things about constraints is that when we face them, we have this realization that there's nothing we can do, and it allows us the space to work within those parameters. A lot of the time when we feel rules coming down from external sources, we feel like, oh, we could have done X, we could have done Y, if only the rule wasn't there. And this is a core, important point that I want you to take away because it's a mindset shift and not necessarily the rule or the constraint itself that's allowing or disallowing some creative problem solving. You may have noticed that I have something back here. Look at this. These are the rules. I created them for myself, which creates a little bit more autonomy to help remind me I'm the one making the rules for my own behavior and to be the kind of person that I want to be when I make decisions. I just want you to take that mindset shift of like, hey, are we thinking about things that can be written and unwritten, or are we thinking about immutable laws of the universe? Now, chances are you had a moment in this video where you thought of something. You were like, oh, this is something that's holding me back. Oh, this is a constraint in my life right now. Go ahead and drop it in the comments because there are a lot of people like you who maybe need to see that thing that is gonna trigger that response for them and say, oh, I don't need a ceiling on this behavior. I know I can blow the lid off of this kind of thinking now that I've seen somebody else do it. I'm also supposed to say like, subscribe, and all that stuff because the algorithm and blah, 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 blah. That's a hopefully helpful breakdown and mental shift that you can make to help your team or yourself create a positive, generating, problem-solving mindset versus a restricted, blaming, pointing fingers kind of mindset. Okay, enough out of me. Go break some rules. See you later.